Hi everyone, welcome to the Knitrohi podcast number 1. I'm your host, Arohi. Thank you for watching. So yeah, my name is Arohi, like I said. I live in New York City with my boyfriend Abraham and our cat, Mr. Meowie. He's called Mr. Meowie because he meows a lot, and right now he's taking a nap, which is why I finally have time and peace to record this episode. Speaking of peace, obviously since this is New York City, you might hear some sirens in the background, so I apologize in advance for that. So I actually decided to start creating podcasts because I've been watching podcasts for many months now actually on YouTube, and I love having them on while I knit. Like, it actually makes me sit down and knit stockinette rows in the round for like an hour or so without getting distracted by anything else, and that's how I've been getting my projects done, really. And I love learning about everyone's different personalities, what they like to knit, and what they're currently working on. So I decided, hey, I think it's time for me to share what I'm knitting on and what I like to knit as well. So yeah, before we get started, I kind of just want to go over the format. I don't think that I want to do like a very strong, like finished objects first, and then works in progress, and acquisitions. But while I was taking notes, I kind of took it in the format of finished objects, whips, and acquisitions. I guess that's how we'll be going, but I really do want to make this like more chatty, more conversational. If I have any like thoughts, I'll probably just like throw them out there while I'm talking about certain projects. So yeah, before we get started, actually, what I'm wearing, this is my baddie tee by Jose Lara on Instagram, and I realize this is the first time I'm saying all these names out loud, so if I am butchering them, I am so sorry. But yeah, this is my baddie tee, and I actually knit this 2 summers ago in July-ish of 2021. I actually cast this on the plane ride from California, where I was living, to New York City. So that's actually very exciting. This reminds me of moving here, honestly, so it just gives me good vibes. I use Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Putty. So putty is kind of like, it's not really white, it's not really gray, it's kind of in the middle. It's more warm, which is very nice. I think it suits my skin tone very well. This is knit on 2.5mm needles, so very, very small needles. This is actually smaller than a lot of pure silk patterns that I've seen. For example, Petite Knits Cumulus Blouse, which I think is knit on 3mm needles. So this one's knit on 2.5mm needles, and I'm not complaining. I really like the fabric. It did take me like quite a while to knit. Even though it's a tee, it took me a month, or even more than a month, I think. But I really did enjoy knitting this a lot, and of course I love wearing this. Like, regardless of what the weather is, I will probably be wearing this top. So this top is knit throughout in broken rib. So it's knit in 4 stitches of stockinette and 2 stitches of broken rib. So basically you knit 1 round all knits, and the next round you knit 4 purl 2, getting this effect. The tee is lined with an I-cord bind off on the neck, the sleeve, and the hem, and it's a very flattering length as well. It's a very adjustable length. The only draw about this pattern is that I test knitted this pattern back in summer 2021, and then Josephine, who I believe wrote this pattern, decided not to publish it after all. So unfortunately, if you're looking to have the exact same tee as me, I don't think that's possible. But I know that Josephine does plan on maybe releasing this pattern sometime in the future, after getting like more test knits and just going through the process a little further. But so keep your eye out. And of course, I'll link all this down below too, just so that you don't have to rewind and listen to me say everything again. Yeah, so I really like this tee, and funnily enough, my mom has seen me wear this tee too, and she loves it as well. So I'm actually going to knit her a very same one in this basically the same yarn, Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, but in the color Cardamom. Yeah, so I have the yarn ready for that already. It's planned to be knit after I finish my current project. So yeah, I can't wait to show you guys that as well, and I'm sure she can't wait to wear it once I'm done with that. Yeah, so now we can kind of jump into what I've been working on recently and what I've finished. This is actually kind of funny because the 2 things that I have been working on recently, I don't have I don't have them to show it to you guys because since they were both gift knits. So I could just like put in some photos for you guys to see. But yeah, the first one is the Kutar Pullover by Sari Nordlund. And I love Sari Nordlund's designs. Like I love seeing the cable, the lace. Personally, I love knitting lace. I think it's the perfect amount of mindlessness and kind of like a pattern. It feels like my hands are dancing. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I love knitting the Kutar Pullover. So if you haven't seen the Kutar before, it's knit in lace from it's knit in, how do you say it? It's a circular yoke pattern. That's right. And the circular yoke is all in a beautiful lace pattern, and then the rest of the tee is knit in stockinette. And then there's a little bit of a sleeve detail which has like the same lace pattern over here, which smoothly transitions into twisted rib, and there's also a twisted rib neckline. So I knit this. The pattern recommends holding fingering and mohair together, and personally, even though like mohair is kind of fun to knit with, I can't wear it, and I would not recommend it for folks that don't really wear mohair in the past. So I knit this actually for my boyfriend Abraham's mom, and even though like she's a knitter as well, I don't think she wears a lot of like mohair knits. So I decided to use a simple DK weight yarn. So I used a Berroco vintage DK in the color Rhubarb. And before I go any further, if you've spoken to me in the past, like you know how much I love Berroco vintage and Berroco vintage DK. I think they are the perfect gift yarn because they have like, I believe it's a 40% wool content and 60% acrylic. Even though like I know folks are like, oh no, we like using 100% wool, we like using 100% animal fibers. I really like this yarn because it keeps me warm because of the wool content, but it's also machine washable because of the polyester content. And the colors that Berroco offers in this yarn are all like a beautiful heather shade. So I really do like this yarn, and I love using it for test knits. I actually knit my second sweater ever in Berroco vintage DK. Yeah, so I love this yarn. I've used it so many times in the past, and I will absolutely continue using it in the future too, especially for gift knits. Yeah, so this color though was really is not something that I would knit normally. I'm not really a bright pink kind of person, even though I think last year I would say I was a bright pink person. So who knows, 2024 I might be a bright pink person again. But yeah, my boyfriend's mom really requested this color. She loves wearing bright pinks, bright colors in general. It kind of came down to my boyfriend as well. He loves wearing bright colors as well. I'm the opposite. I like wearing black, white, boring colors. Once I show you guys my yarns that I have planned for the future, I'm sure you guys will agree. Like I knit like the most boring, the darkest colors. But that's what I like wearing, and I'm trying to knit things that I enjoy wearing, rather than like bright pinks, I suppose. But anyways, getting back to the color, like I knit this in the color Rhubarb, which is a dark pink. I actually do have some left over to show you guys. So this is a beautiful dark pink, and if you can kind of tell, I don't know how well it comes off on the screen, it's got a slightly heathered effect as well, so it looks absolutely beautiful knitted up. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't have the finished object anymore. I mailed it to my boyfriend's mom. She loves it. She sent me a picture of her wearing it. It looks amazing. And I do hope that like she gets some time to wear it before the weather turns warm again. Yeah, so moving on. So going to my second finished object, which was also a gift knit. I knit my boyfriend the business casual socks by Tanis Fiber Arts. And unfortunately, I don't think I took a very good picture of them. And I know I said my boyfriend lives with me, but he actually just flew out of the country today and took those socks with him. So I will keep this as brief as possible and hopefully show you guys next time what these socks look like, because they are beautiful socks, if I might say so myself. So I knit these socks in Woolberry Fiber Co's Berry Cashmere in the color Driftwood. It's a beautiful yarn. It's very multicolored. It has tones of yellow, darker yellow, black, and they all kind of like mix together very nicely. I actually love this sock pattern. This was my very first fingering weight sock pattern that I knit. Back then I used a different yarn, but this sock looks beautiful in the Woolberry yarn as well. It's got a crisscross pattern throughout the sock, and it's very easy to keep track of, and the cables are not super intricate, so it works up pretty fast as well. It's knit top down, so with the classic heel flap and the turning of the heel and then the gusset and so on and so forth. And that's, I think, my favorite way to knit socks. I've knit a few socks toe up as well, and I'm not really too fond of the short row heel, I believe. But it is nice, to be fair, to not have to guess how long the sock is, because it's so much easier to wear. But I think I just find it more comfortable to knit top-down socks. And I say this, I'm not a sock expert really. I've knit like a very handful number of socks, but all of those I've found that I like top-down socks much more. So something about the yarn itself, I actually bought this Woolberry Fiber Co yarn off of Ravelry, off of someone else's Ravelry D-stash. So I think that's a wonderful way to buy yarn, if I say so myself again. I don't have to buy like brand new yarn. I can help de-stash someone else's yarn, and I get like beautiful options myself, and to be fair, at a discounted price as well. So yeah, I will probably continue to do that for all the socks yarns that I want to knit in the future. So yeah, I think it's a great way to try different yarns that I haven't tried in the past, such as Woolberry. This is my first time using it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the finished objects in the last month or so. I'm so sorry I don't have a single thing to show you guys, but moving on to the works in progress, this is something I do have to show you guys. So my first work in progress right now is the clove sweater by Rachel Knits Things, or Rachel Kurihara. Let me show you guys. So this is what I'm working on right now. This sweater is knit on, is a classic DK weight sweater, drop shoulder, cropped length with a split hem. I have knit the sweater in the past, actually. I test knit for Rachel back in, I believe it was October 2021. And that was my first time test knitting a whole sweater garment. So I was super excited for it, and I admired Rachel's work so much. So I was very excited to test knit for her. I also got the opportunity then to use, to knit the sweater in a cashmere yarn, Cardiff cashmere. And I love that sweater so much. I wear it all the time, and I would have probably worn it today if the weather was slightly colder. So since I wear that sweater so much, I just wanted to recreate it, you know, just like have another clove sweater in my wardrobe. So this time I'm not using cashmere, unfortunately, but I am using De Rerum Natura's Ulysses, I hope I pronounced that right, in the color Bouleau. And I think this is a great time to say that I did not study French in high school, so I might be pronouncing this very wrong. But yeah, so Bouleau is this very nice, I would call it a gray, but my boyfriend saw it on the couch and he called it a white sweater. So it's kind of a very light gray, I would say. I think it's a beautiful color, and this yarn is super interesting because it comes in, I believe 200-ish meters per 50 grams, which gives me like a very decent amount of yardage. And personally, I don't like knitting very heavy sweaters. I feel like one, they hang very weird off my body and they get misshapen after a bit. And two, more importantly, since I live in New York City, I don't have a lot of storage, and it's really hard for me to like store all the bulky sweaters, especially if I have too many. They just straight up don't fit in my drawers. So I really like Ulysses because it's very lightweight, and since it's woolen spun, I get it's not super thin, so it's a DK weight, but I get a lot of yardage for the weight. So I actually am repurposing this yarn from another sweater that I had knit last year. I had knit the Poetry Pullover by Sari Nordlund. This was also a test knit. I'll insert a picture here. It was a beautiful sweater. I love knitting it. It's all over lace sweater, in the same stitch pattern that's used in the Poet and the Poetria sweater that also from Sari Nordlund. Loved all those sweaters, and I enjoyed knitting the poetry pullover a lot. I just realized that after I knitted, this was 100% not my style. I'm not a kind of person who wears lace sweaters. I'm much more of a stockinette or a rib kind of person. I know, very boring. So I decided that like it was kind of pointless for that sweater to just hang out in my closet. So I decided to unravel it and just ball it up again and use it for a basic stockinette sweater. And the clove sweater is kind of where I landed. So a little bit about the unraveling process. It's not, I really thought it was gonna be like I pull the sweater open, I just like ball it up and use it again. But if any of you have unraveled a sweater before, it turns out that like if a sweater has been knit and like kept in that knit state for a long time, if you unravel it, it gets kind of like noodly, if that makes sense. The yarn gets pretty kinky, and if you try to knit it up again, it looks kind of messy. And to be fair, like if I could just knit it like that and then like block it, it would probably be fine. But I did want to knit with like kind of like a brand new yarn again. So I looked up how like the best practices for unraveling a sweater and reusing that yarn. And so I first unraveled it and balled it up into like the different balls that I had used for the sweater. And then I kind of, from the balls, I converted into these long like skein kind of things. Like, you know, when you open up a skein, it's like a long like round thing. I'm explaining this pretty badly. But yeah, and then I tied it up. This is I believe this would be very similar if I wanted to dye yarn. So I tied it up at the end so they don't get tangled, and then I dunked it in water for like half an hour. That helped to remove the kinks in the yarn. So when I pulled it up, it was kind of weighed down by the water. So I kind of just like hung it on a few hangers and then just let it be overnight and let the water drip out. And once that was done, I kind of ended up with like these newish skeins really that didn't have any of these kinks left. So I used my the winder and the to wind up everything into balls again. And so yeah, and the yarn does not have kinks anymore, which is great. I do think though that during the washing process, it might not have been the best for Ulysses, because I think that it may have removed some of the protective like glidiness of the yarn, because I do think that knitting this clove sweater, it has been a little more like it's been catching on the like skin of my hand, which is kind of weird, which I did not notice when I was knitting the poetry sweater. It doesn't bother me too much. My sweater looks kind of odd that way. I did notice that there was a little bit of rolling out, but I plan on wearing this sweater just as like a loungewear, so I think it's fine. It's not that big of a deal, at least I think so. And hopefully like we'll see what happens during blocking. Maybe all those that rolling out kind of adjusts itself. Yeah, so I finished both the sleeves on the sweater and I tried it on and it fits great. Now I just have to, the body's currently up to here, so I just have to knit the full length. And yeah, I can't wait to show you. I do plan on hopefully finishing it sometime this week, if that's possible, because I'm going on vacation in a few days and I do want to take it with me. I am going to a warm place though, so I don't know if I can wear it at all, but it would be nice if I could bring it on vacation. Yeah, so that is my first whip. No, it is, I mean, it is still my first whip, but I haven't explained a very fun detail that I added to this. So the clove sweater, actually, it's a very plain, basic, like stockinette sweater. So I decided to be a little funky, and if you guys have seen the Port sweater by Ozetta on Instagram, you know that it's also like a basic drop shoulder sweater, but with very interesting shoulder details. So they have, the sweater itself has like knit one row, purl one row, knit one row, purl one row, and then the sleeve continues. So I decided to do the same for my clove sweater, and just to see how it turns out. So yeah, here's what it looks like right now. I think it's a very similar effect to the Port sweater. So essentially what I did is the last 7 stitches on each end, I converted them from like just plain knit stitches, I suppose, or like stockinette stitches, into 1 by 1 ribbing. So it turned into purl, knit, purl, knit, purl knit, and the edge stitch would be a knit, and the edge stitch is like picked up once you pick up stitches for the sleeve anyways, so it looks like there's a purl knit, purl knit, purl knit, and then the sleeve continues, which, yeah, just looking at it again, I think it looks pretty cool actually. So yeah, I can't wait to see how it looks like when it's actually worn. So yeah, super excited for this. So my next work in progress, this one has been work in progress for like almost 4 months now, which is kind of sad, honestly, because I'm not the kind of person to leave something as a whip for that long. I just finish things and move on. Like, I get kind of stressed if I haven't finished a project. But this one I cast on specifically so that it would be like a no stress, kind of knit it whenever. I'll probably wear it, I don't know, fall winter of 2023. So without further ado, this one is it's all tangled, surprising. This one is my Nord pullover by Rerum, and I believe Hanne is a Danish designer. Yeah, so this sweater is knit in Filcolana Alva and Filcolana Saga. Filcolana Alva is a lace weight alpaca, and Filcolana Saga is a fingering weight or lace weight, it's kind of in the middle, lamb's wool. And the combination together is actually really nice. It's very soft, very, very cozy. And personally, like I said, I don't really enjoy wearing mohair too much. I think holding a lace weight alpaca is like an excellent choice for a substitute. It's less fluffy, which is nice because I'm not very much into the fluff really. And it's like lightweight, but still like fluffs up to a DK weight, just like holding like a fingering and mohair together. But yeah, anyways, so this sweater, like I said, is the Nord sweater. I actually bought this yarn in Denmark itself. So my boyfriend and I went to Copenhagen for a vacation last September. We actually did a whole Europe trip really. Like we worked remotely in London and then traveled all over Europe, and our last place was Copenhagen. And I was in Copenhagen actually like for my birthday too. So I actually went to Sommerfuglen, the yarn store, for my birthday, and I decided to get 2 sweater quantities of yarn there. So one of the sweater quantities was this. I decided to use the same colors and yarn as the pattern itself, and it was actually super easy to find that yarn in Sommerfuglen, because unlike like finding yarn online or like in the United States, it's kind of hard to find like Filcolana yarns, but you go into all these Danish stores and like it's just Sandnesgarn, Filcolana, all these things everywhere. I was so excited because I was able to recognize all these different yarn brands. It was so cool. If I move to Copenhagen one day, like my bank account's gonna be empty. But anyways, yeah, so this sweater is knit bottom up. So I've knit the bottom and the back. It doesn't look very dashing right now since it's bottom up and it's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but I split for the sleeves already and knit the back as well as the front. I've put this sweater on pause to knit like the other gift knits and my clothes sweater, but the next step here would just be to separate the left and right fronts to create like the front area and then join at the shoulder. I actually think this sweater has a very interesting shoulder seam, which is why like I don't mind it being bottom up. Actually, I say that, but I don't actually mind sweaters being knit bottom up. I know like the knitting community is like very much into top-down sweaters, or at least the knitting folks that I interact with frequently. We're very into like top-down sweaters since they're like super easy to try on and they look pretty, I suppose, when you first cast them on. And it's like very simple. Like once you do like the difficult parts of like the neck and everything, you just have like the body ribbing to go, and you can just do that while you're watching TV or like in meetings or anything. But yeah, this sweater is knit bottom up, so I had to do like the body first and then get to like the more involved pieces of like the front and the seams and then picking up for the neck and everything. So yeah, hopefully I can start knitting or working that after my clove sweater, though I highly doubt it because I'm going on vacation, and then after that when I come back it's probably going to start being warm again, and I don't really want to knit with wool in the warmth, but we will see what happens. If I don't get to it in the summer, I'll 100% pick it up in once the weather starts getting cold again, because I do really want to wear this sweater. I did make a slight modification in the length of the sweater. Initially I knit it to like the suggested length, because once again, since with bottom up sweaters you can't really knit it to like the exact length that you want and try it on. It's kind of harder to tell because you're knitting from the bottom up and then splitting at the underarms. But so I knit it to the recommended length, and then I found out that the sweater was way too long, and it was definitely not my style. My style is definitely more cropped, even though that might not be super practical, but that's what I think looks flattering on me. So I decided to, I was between maybe like doing some interesting steeking on the sleeve just to make the armhole deeper, just so that I didn't have to unravel too much. But then I looked it up and I did not want to deal with that. So I decided to just unravel the whole piece and just knit 3 stripes and then split for the sleeves instead of 4 stripes and then split for the sleeves like I had done earlier. Oh yeah, one more thing about the sweater is that it has some very basic color work. So if you guys can see, the color work itself is like one by one really. So it's 1 stitch of white, 1 stitch of black, and then it alternates throughout the bands. So as someone who doesn't really knit color work that often, I think this was like a very easy, I wouldn't say introduction, but a very easy like color work pattern. I think I really like striped sweaters, and I think these stripes make it slightly more interesting than like a regular striped sweater. So I am having a fun time knitting this, and the yarn is I think it's a beautiful yarn combination, so I can't wait to work on it again once I'm done with all the other stuff that I'm working on. Alright, so those are my 2 main works in progress. I'm not the kind of person generally to have way too many works in progress. I like to like focus on one project and like get it done and then like start another one. Maybe I'll have like a hat or a sock or something on the go, but generally like I'm not someone who switches between patterns like on one day versus the other day. I'm generally like, if I start a hat, I'll probably finish the hat and then get back to the sweater or whatever that I was knitting. But yeah, so those are the 2 things that I'm mostly working on. I can start talking about the yarn that I'm excited to use. So I know like a lot of people were talking about yarn bands for 2023. I was kind of considering it because I have a medicine cabinet, or like a bathroom cabinet, or suppose. It's like a long thin cabinet that I bought specifically for storing yarn. So that cabinet it's kind of like my height, and that's where I store most of my yarn. That cabinet is full. I also have like a small bag on the side that I put some overflow yarn, and that bag is also full. So I decided that like, okay, I need to like not buy more yarn in 2023. Just kind of work through all the projects that I have planned. And speaking of, like, I don't generally buy yarn without much of an idea of what I'm going to be using for it. So I actually have a list on my phone where I keep track of like all the yarn that I have and the pattern that I want to make for it, and just kind of keep like a list that I have. And I have like a separate table really that has like wish lists of the yarn that I want to buy or the patterns that I want to knit, and the yarns that I could maybe use for that. So the current first table, the table that has all the yarn that I have and the patterns that I want to knit for it, that table would probably take me all the way up to 2024. So I decided that like I wasn't gonna get more yarn. So that worked pretty well for like the first 2 months, and then it didn't. I think when I try to like restrict myself too much, I kind of go crazy afterwards. So either way, I did buy yarn that I'm like very excited to use, and I did want to try using yarns that are more local to the United States, or not really local to the United States, but like yarn that like is easier to find here, rather than like pining for yarn that's only really accessible to me in Copenhagen, for example. So rather than try to somehow acquire like Knitting for Olive or Filcolana, I decided to try brands that are still nice, but more available in the United States. So one of them is Quince and Co Chickadee. I have it over here. Quince and Co Chickadee. I actually got this yarn on sale. I tend to buy like a lot of my yarn on sale since I'm kind of, what's the word? cheap. So this is a sport weight yarn. This is in the color Rook. I got 10 skeins of these, and I was able to get it directly from the Quince and Co store, which is pretty cool because I was able to get a discount from there as well. So I think this yarn is incredibly soft. Like, I could just cuddle with it. It's very nice. And it's like kind of brown, kind of black, you guys can tell. And I'm super excited to use it. It's a sport weight, like I said, so thinner than DK. And I have the perfect pattern that I want to use for it. I have not swatched for it, but I can make it work, I'm sure. So the pattern that I want to use is Maxi's Mock Neck by Einar Berkimbayeva. I think she goes by Mama's Teddy Bear on Instagram. So this pattern, if you guys know the sweater number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, I actually knit a sweater number 8 last year, actually during our Europe travel. So I kind of call that my European sweater. But either way, I knit a sweater number 8 and I love it. I love wearing it. I think the ribbing was really fun to knit since it's a 2x2 rib. I can insert a picture obviously since like I'm not wearing it right now. It has a beautiful shoulder detail and a very cool neck. I did shorten the neck a little because I do have a kind of a short neck. So it has a very nice neck feature and it kind of like bunches up in the front, which I guess since it doesn't have neck shaping, some people might hate that, but like I like it. I think it looks cool. So yeah, I really like that sweater and I wanted to try making a sweater very similar to that, also in 2x2 rib, in a lighter weight. So I did find this Maxi's Mock Neck pattern and I think it's a wonderful pattern. It does have interesting details. It looks pretty similar to the sweater number 8, just except in sport weight. But looking a little closer, I think it has like interesting details such as I think when you start off, you have more increases in the back compared to the front, or the front compared to the back. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then just to make sure, to kind of give it like a less bunching up effect like the sweater number 8 has. So yeah, I'm super excited to knit this sweater. I already have the pattern. Everything is ready to go. I have to ball these up, but hopefully that's not too bad. But since the weather's warming up, I probably won't get to it until maybe like August, September. But once that sweater is done, I'll probably be living in that as well, as well as my current sweater number 8. So yeah, this is the first one, the yarn purchase that broke my rule of no yarn purchasing. Bad yarn. Moving on. Where is it? So the second one that I got was Knitpicks Gloss Fingering. So this is a fingering weight yarn that comes in 50 grams skeins. This is in the color black, or I hope it's called black. Sometimes Knitpicks has like interesting names for their colors, but essentially this is just black. I plan on making a summer top with this. The content is 70% merino and 30% silk. I know some people are like, I don't want to knit like summer tops with merino, but personally it's never really bothered me. Last summer I knit a camisole number 5 by My Favorite Things Knitwear in knitting for olive merino, and I'm like perfectly comfortable in it. It doesn't make me like too warm or anything, so I'm sure the merino plus silk combination in Knitpicks Gloss Fingering won't really bother me too much. But the plan for this yarn is the Pie Camisole by Creadia Studio, or Nabita on Instagram. I love this pattern. I think it looks so flattering. And I've been wanting to make this ever since like Nabita first posted about it. The only issue is that, like I said, I'm kind of cheap, so I bought only 3 skeins of these, and each one of it is 220 yards, and the pattern does recommend I think 4 balls of like knitting for olive merino, or like a 50 gram merino ball. So I'm kind of worried that I might not have enough, but I think I might just wing it. And if it doesn't work out, like I'm not too scared of unraveling and knitting something else. And I do have like an alternate pattern in mind too. But we'll see. I think it should work out. I really like how this yarn feels. I think it, and since it's black, I love black, like I said. I think it'll be a super flattering summer top as well. Yeah, moving on. This was an interesting yarn purchase, I think. This is the Handspun Hope Ethiopian cotton in the color Mimosa Legume. This is kind of like, it's like a beige color, honestly. I was slightly worried it might have some green tint because I don't think green looks particularly good on me. But it's not. It's like a very beige. It's on the light side of beige as well. So I think it'll be like a really cool summer top. So since it's hand spun, it looks kind of slubby, if you guys can tell, but I'm not too worried about it. And I got 2 skeins of these, both on sale as usual. And yeah, actually, I know this is a knitting podcast, but I also crochet as well. I don't crochet too much since like the repetitive motion on my hand gives me like, it starts hurting my hand a lot. And if you like sit with me while I crochet, you can hear like the crack in my wrist, which is not fun to hear. It's not fun to feel as well. But either way, I do want to try knitting or crocheting a summer top. And the one that I'm thinking of is the Reno top by Polyester. And this one's a crochet top. I think it's crocheted on 3mm hook. I don't think my wrist is very excited about that, but I think it looks gorgeous. It's a gorgeous top, and it kind of like has not a super high, like a funnel neck, like a high neck, and it's sleeveless. I'll just insert a picture as usual. Yeah, so I'm super excited to make that. I'll probably be working on that sometime this summer. Probably off and on, because like I said, like crocheting hurts my hands a little bit. Yeah, so that's the yarn that I'm very excited to use in the next coming month, the next season-ish. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I think I do want to create like another episode sometime talking about like the past summer tops that I've made, since like summer's around the corner, and just thoughts about them and more details about like what I want to knit and crochet this summer as well. So let me know if that sounds interesting to you, and maybe another video about like going through my yarn stash and kind of just like talking about all the projects that I have for each of my sweater quantity or like leftover balls as well. So yeah, those are the couple ideas that I have, and of course like I'm happy to come on here and like talk about my projects as well. Like I don't think my boyfriend is very interested in like listening to me like yammer on about all the things that I knit. Like to him everything kind of looks the same. So I'm very excited to have this like community to just like, you know, nerd out about knitting. So yeah, I think I might have started off as awkward and ended this video slightly less awkward. So let me know like what your thoughts are, if you have any ideas for like future videos or anything. And yeah, I'm super excited to share all my projects with you, and I will see you soon. Bye guys.